Good Shabbos, everyone. Before I introduce our special guest tonight, I'd like to thank all the members of the Rabbinical Search Committee. As the largest conservative synagogue in the country, joining Beth Yeshurun is a really great gig. Our search committee is chaired by our board treasurer, Donna Katz, and consists of 7 couples who are our voices of tomorrow. I am thrilled to introduce rabbinical candidate Nico Losorelli. Let me give you a little bit of his very impressive background. Nico is a senior rabbinical student at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies in Los Angeles and an alumnus of the APEC Level Rabbinic Fellowship. Originally, he's from California, and he holds a bachelor's degree in music from UC Berkeley, focusing on opera and early music with a touch of musical theater. Before beginning his rabbinical studies, Nico worked in television production, including 2 years as Jim Carrey's second assistant on Showtime's Kidding. His passion lies in creating meaningful Jewish communities, meeting people wherever they are on their Jewish journeys, and deepening engagement with prayer. Nico has lived, studied, and volunteered extensively in Israel. His commitment was further galvanized by recent events in Israel, and he continues to advocate for fostering connections with Israel. Nico lives in Los Angeles and enjoys movies, outdoors, exploring new places, and making a difference in people's lives. So please help me in welcoming Nico Losorelli. Thank you.
Wow, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much. It's such a joy to see such a full room. I feel almost like I'm at High Holidays, and I know here High Holidays is probably 9 times this size, so this is incredible. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for being here. And I want to talk a little bit about our time and our attention. Our time and our attention are 2 of the most valuable things in the world. So valuable, in fact, that from the moment you wake up, the world is demanding that you hand them over. This is a story that's familiar to all of us, but let's dive into it. Let's really get into the headspace of a story about someone. Let's call him Jacob. So it's morning, 6 a.m. The alarm goes off. There's a screen full of work email notifications, personal email notifications, text and WhatsApp notifications, and Jacob's eyes, they squint at the bright light of the phone, and the dawn has barely even begun to break. He rolls out of bed, and his mental to-do list begins to populate, carrying over from the night before, of course. All right, time to shower, what to wear, what to eat. Off to work, he turns on the radio, he surfs the stations. Maybe I'll just listen to some music. Spotify, podcasts. He thinks to himself, oh no, I've got to go. So he gets to work, email notification, email notification, email notification. It's an inbox avalanche, and it's all a blur. Fast forward to lunchtime. He unlocks his phone, opens Instagram, and thinks, wow, Steve is doing really well. And wow, Danielle got her PhD already. Work email, notification, rockets reported in the north of Israel. He hums and tunes to himself, Shalom, how does it go? How does it go? He thinks he can't remember. My dad used to sing it. And then a coworker walks by and says, hey, how are you? I'm fine, he mumbles, barely noticing that there was a person there at all. Email, task, email, task, email, email. Then suddenly it's evening. It's 6:30 p.m., and he resolves to empty his inbox at home. So he gets home by 7:30, the inbox is doubled in size, and he eats that salad that he didn't get to eat during the day, and maybe he makes a drink at the end of the night. Bed by 11, doom scroll till 12, 6 a.m., wake up and do it all again. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all come and go. And as the world continues taking and taking and taking, somewhere a voice says, may there be many more days like this one. And then another distant and nearly inaudible voice says, Amen. Jacob keeps going until there's nothing left. And Friday rolls around again, and stop. he yells, "Enough." He closes his laptop. He shuts off his phone. He makes himself dinner, setting the table with whatever he has. He lights 2 candles. Is one of them tall or short or scented? Doesn't really matter right now. He says a blessing. He hums a song. Shalom Aleichem. Oh, God, what are the rest of the words? He asks himself. He suddenly begins to awaken to the moment of the present that he's been numbed from and realizes that while every day has seemed to bleed into the next, this one is somehow different. It's Friday, but it's also Shabbat. Jacob has made Shabbat. He made it. He breathes a sigh of relief, feeling momentarily transformed, and says, "God, I hope there are many more Shabbats like this one." And then he thinks he hears a still small voice say, "Amen." Let's take a deep breath. It's a lot. And yet, how many people live their lives this way? So many. Now, which one of these sounds better? Option 1, the Jacob option, rush, 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 rush. Or option 2, get stuff done, but then take a break for a day, about 25 hours. I think the clear answer is option 2. This story is incredibly common, and if we change a few details around, it could be any of us, and in fact, it is many of us. It's a very modern story, and seemingly a uniquely modern problem. But our tradition tells us that it's actually not as modern as we like to think. Our Talmud, our great repository of Jewish debate and wisdom, tells this very story, albeit slightly differently, and it goes like this. It was taught in a Baraita. Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda says, 2 ministering angels accompany a person to Shabbat on evening from the synagogue to their home. 1 good angel and 1 evil angel. And when he reaches his home and he finds a lamp burning and a table set and his bed made, the good angel says, Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will that it shall be like this for another Shabbat. And then the evil angel has to answer against his will, Amen. And if the person's home is not prepared for Shabbat in that manner, the evil angel says, Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will, God, that it shall be like this for another Shabbat. And then the good angel answers against his will, Amen. These 2 ministering angels, 1 good, 1 bad. They follow us to synagogue, which I think could also be a metaphor for wherever we spend our time. And one of them seems to be on our side and the other not. Or rather, maybe neither of them is on our side because they've clearly made a bet on us. And we're just kind of pawns in that bet. Even though these angels are starting to seem kind of like dramatic jerks, let's not completely disregard the story because it's here for a reason. Perhaps through their drama, we're being given an opportunity to tune into our own inner and outer drama, leading us to ask essential questions like, where am I spending my time? How am I spending my time? Where is my attention going, and what's getting in the way of me doing what I need to do? This is the drama of our present day, and it's a drama that started long before we were born and will continue long after we're gone. So what do we do about it? We have to do something. Make some kind of change so our lives don't just pass us by. Well, let's look at the life of our opening character, Jacob, as an example. What's important to him? Well, let's just look at how Jacob spends his time. He gets up early, he rushes to get ready, being as efficient as possible, listens to the news, is inundated in ads, drowns in emails, help others solve his problems, but he barely notices the people behind those problems. And more email, and hailing a dinner, and doom scrolling. This is how he spends his time. So I guess that's what's important to him. How we spend our time and where we put our attention, whether we want to admit it or not, and I often hate to admit it, is how we demonstrate to ourselves and those around us what is important to us as individuals and as a society. Because that's where we're putting those 2 most valuable things in our life, our time and our attention. You might have guessed I relate to the story of Jacob quite a bit. But surely Jacob hasn't always been like this. Maybe he wakes up early because he values watching a sunrise, because natural beauty has always been an inspiration to him. Maybe he's efficient within an inch of his life because he wants to make the most of what life has to offer. And maybe he helps people and answers all these emails because he values connection. Our society, however, of more and more and more has taken each of these laudable qualities and made a bet against Jacob. It has said, I bet I can get him to lose sight of those things. And society has won, but not for long, because Jacob, well, he's had enough. He begins to say no. What does he do? He almost instinctually looks towards the mitzvot, the commandments. He takes the mitzvah of Shabbat, and with it, its many mitzvot, like taking the time to prepare a beautiful Shabbat table, and taking time to make a delicious Shabbat meal, and ceasing from labor, and lighting 2 candles for Shabbat. He gives Shabbat his time and attention. And it's really no mistake that he went for the mitzvot, the commandments, especially Shabbat, because mitzvot represent another way of living. And mitzvot, by their very nature, touch nearly every part of our lives, just like this world of go, go, go. And since both of these things, the requirements and the benefits of mitzvot and the demands of the secular world, reach into every aspect of our lives, we're presented with that same choice. Option 1 of go, go, go in Jacob's story, and the stories of so many people, and oftentimes myself included. And option 2, go, 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 but then stop. We say a sacred no through Shabbat and other mitzvot in order to be able to say a sacred yes to our humanity and our values. No to giving away all of our time and attention until there's nothing left, in order to say yes to remembering who we're meant to be and how we're meant to live. And when we do this, slowly but surely, the idea of mitzvah, goreret mitzvah, meaning one mitzvah leads to another, begins to eclipse its adversary, avera, goreret, avera, meaning one transgression leads to another. In the case of Jacob, he does this, and he begins to take control of his life with the help of those ancient and wisdom-laden tools called mitzvot, Shabbat chief among them. And he begins to say no to continuing to answer emails after he gets home from work, protecting his personal time. And Mondays and Tuesdays, they begin to take on their own character again. One Monday, he does the good deed of helping a neighbor move a bulky piece of furniture because he knows how difficult it can be to do that alone. Then maybe he decides to put together care packages for refugees on Tuesdays like he used to in college because he loves human connection, and the mitzvah to look out for the vulnerable is important to him. He says yes to Wednesday morning runs, and he gets to enjoy the beauty of a sunrise, contemplating the works of creation, and he says no thank you to overtime over the weekend. And he even comes to shul. Shabbat becomes a haven and a joy and a space of renewal. Jacob slowly but surely, mitzvah by mitzvah, transforms his life into something where he's able to recognize himself again. It's a story that seems like it's marching towards a happy ending, but there are challenges along the way. While each mitzvah we do, let's say, for example, beginning to pray daily, helps us reclaim our time, our Judaism, our spirituality, we may have to say no to our routine of keeping up with the news as much in the morning, making us feel a little less civilly engaged, because time is a resource. Or perhaps we begin to keep kosher, but that means we have to start being a little bit more selective about where we eat. And sometimes that can strain a friendship or two, or even family relationships. Or maybe we even commit to coming to shul on the holidays, and those holidays happen to fall during the work week, so we say yes to the holidays, but we have to use time off and say no to some opportunities at work, and maybe even a vacation, which is tough. Like any way in which we choose to spend our time and attention, there are gains and there are losses. Those losses can be difficult and awkward and maybe even a little uncomfortable, but the more we say the sacred no, in order to say that sacred yes, with mitzvot as our guides, we get better and better and better at it, becoming more resilient, becoming more aware of the impact of our actions, transforming our reality, transforming our day-to-day, and transforming ourselves. Now, change is always a process that involves uncertainty. And whether or not each of us takes on a given change in our life is up to us. No one is making you take on one mitzvah or another. We're commanded, yes, but at the end of the day, we each make our own choices, demonstrating what is important to us and what isn't. And the world of mitzvot is not an all-or-nothing one. At least I don't believe it should be. Because it can and it often does start with one mitzvah, which leads to the next and the next. And through this process, we can transform our lives, stepping into the drama of our lives instead of around it, and inhabiting fully and changing the arc of our storyline. We can even harmonize that drama of those angels. After all, our story of the good angel and the evil angel is what our song Shalom Aleichem is all about. The tune that Jacob was struggling to remember. The one that we just sang, and we always sing, as a part of welcoming in Shabbat. So these two ministering angels, they made a bet. But it turns out it wasn't a bet on whether we could or would make Shabbat, and by extension so many other mitzvot happen. As it turns out, that wasn't the central drama all along. The bet's central drama was actually whether or not we would even hear the angels at all, or whether we would allow their voices to be crowded out by all the world's noise, and ultimately forget who we are. And actually, I think that that's what we call a prayer. The angel's bet was a prayer, not a ploy. They used the language Yehi Ratzon, meaning may it be your will. And that's prayer language. It's a prayer that calls us to bring greater peace into our lives and remember what's truly important in life. And how do they ask us to make that peace? Through action. And what tools does our tradition put at our disposal for that action? Mitzvot. And today, it gives us Shabbat. So let's take action. Let's transform our world, see and hear others fully, and be able to hear that still small voice within yourself, that instinct that can get crowded out by so much noise, which still remembers what is important to you. And you don't have to do it all at once. Because know that a deep change can simply begin with one mitzvah. Shabbat Shalom.
So Nico, thank you very much. I should say almost Rabbi Losorelli. It's always that in-between time, but what an honor it is to have you here. And I want to welcome also your fiance, Eli. Eli's over there. Eli, if you'll raise your hand. And I hope it's an honor to have you here too. And to welcome you. And I hope everyone after services will have an opportunity to meet Nico and Eli, to give them a big Texas Beth Yeshurun welcome, to show them why we love this community so much. And Nico, we appreciate your Devar Torah. We can tell how much you've learned and how much you have to share with the Jewish world. And we're honored tonight to profit from your learning and to give us all something to think about the beauty of mitzvot and keeping Shabbat and the importance of sanctifying time in Judaism. So thank you again, Nico, and welcome again to Beth Yeshurun. And tomorrow, Nico will be speaking in our museum minyan and in our Greenfield Chapel. So please let other people know. Please come back. You'll have a chance to learn from him again. He'll be giving a different sermon as well. He'll have a chance to meet with some members of the search committee and our leadership and people in our religious school and in our chapel Sunday morning. So really have a chance to kind of get a sense of our great community, and we'll have a chance to introduce him to our community throughout the weekend. So we're now really ready to continue with our service as we rise, as the ark is